I think that risk and return are twins. Because human nature as it is, you would follow where your returns are highest. This perception that Africa is risky may or may not be true, but you get the desired returns. But is Africa risky? I don't think so. And if you come to Ghana, in actual fact, when it comes to mega projects, the reverse of what is in Nigeria is the case in Ghana. Ghanaian banks, first and foremost, we have to differentiate between the local banking institutions and the foreign banking institutions like the Standard Chartered, etc. And unfortunately, we have a situation in Ghana where mega projects are either the preserve of government and its funding agencies or the international banks. Having said that, infrastructure projects such as hotels, office parks, condominiums have always been funded by the local banks or by the banks. How do we get the local financial institutions to get involved in things like the airports, the harbors, etc.? I think the first thing is there must be permissible government policy. The process of development is not by accident. It's intentional, it's crafted, it's deliberate. And I think any government which wants to see its economy develop, whilst you sell the country for foreign direct investment, must also recognize that domestic direct investment is key. Because in any case, the day that your economy has a problem, the foreign financial institutions will close their doors to you, as we saw happen recently in Japan, etc. So there must first and foremost be permissible government policies directly aimed at supporting local content. Ghana has recently discovered oil. It is said that in the past 18 months or so, something like $3 billion came into the oil sector for the purposes of mining the oil. None of that came through any local financial institution. Now, I think that is wrong. Because basically what that does is also that if and when the wealth is created, it's kept with foreign banks offshore. But you need these monies in your economy. So government must sit up and understand that we must have policy to direct some of these investments to the local banks. Now, the argument has been made that the local banks don't have a balance sheet big enough. We don't have to raise the money on our balance sheet, as BC said. I mean, I am in competition right now with a financial advisory firm based in London over providing finance for a major government infrastructural project. Now, this company is bidding to be recruited to advise this company on how to raise money to do the project. Not to raise money for the project, but to advise them on how to raise money for the project. Now, I went to the company and I said, I will raise X for you. Over the next 5 years, they need $1 billion. We have already provided funding for them to build the first set of infrastructure. The second set is another $100 million. And I'm waiting for a phone call to say that we have been given the mandate. So it's not as if we can't do it. But I think the orientation has been always look out there. And sometimes, unfortunately, is on the advice of our co-hosts, the World Bank and the IMF. But the capability is in Africa, and I think that we should look to deliberately create the opportunities. But having said that, I think we must also deliberately create stronger and bigger local financial institutions. As was said this morning, I mean, it's not a matter of the number of banks you have in your country, but it is a matter of how big and how strong these banks are. Ghana has gone the other way, where now we have maybe 27 financial institutions, 27 banks. Nigeria has gone the opposite way, where they've come down from 59 or 69 to 25. South Africa has 4 major banks. So we must look at that as well to make it possible for local financial institutions to support some of these huge infrastructural projects. I totally agree with the World Bank when they say that local institutions must get involved, particularly in Ghana, in providing infrastructure. And I think now it's a matter of convincing government. There is no local financial institution. The road network, for instance, is never open to financial institutions in Ghana to take advantage of. We just offered the government of Ghana 80 million to do two roads which have been under construction for, I think, 12 years. The day before we got the mandate, I think the World Bank or somebody came along and gave them grant money or soft loans. And I think that is another problem where, this dependency on aid makes it very difficult for commercial opportunities to be made available to business. But I think dependency on aid is a very bad thing. It's like a homeless dog coming to your back door every time. When it comes, the first time it comes, when you give it a piece of meat, it will always come back. So that is something that we've got to look at if we are going to grow our local financial institutions to take part in some of these infrastructure type projects. My reaction is you shouldn't worry if they don't want to come. They will come. If they don't come, we'll do it ourselves. I mean, don't we want an African Walmart? Do you need an American Walmart in Nigeria? You don't. Let's take Dangote. I mean, who does more salt than Dangote in the world? And he's Nigerian. So, the Western world has no choice, trust me. Their rivers are polluted. They've got nuclear sites all over the place. Their governments are broke. Did any African bank suffer 2-3 years ago? They have all these financial products which do not generate any productivity. To the extent that now a Ghanaian has taken advantage of it and lost $2 billion to UBS. Look, Africa is the place to be. And whether they like it or not, every businessman, after you hit your matured markets, you've got to look for new markets. By the time they are ready to come, we the Africans will be investing massively in our own continent. So you shouldn't worry about it. We've now had KFC open in Accra. I haven't been there, and I'm not going to go there. But of course, it will do very well, because we've all been westernized. So my simple answer to you is that you shouldn't worry. Once we get our political leaders to think properly, because I think we still have a problem there, and we get the CNNs and BBCs of this world to report accurately on Africa, we'll do it. Remember that when a dog bites a man, it's no news. But when a man bites a dog, it's news. And that's what the networks put out. They focus on the bad, troublesome areas in Africa and leave the good, the progressive areas. But like I said, they don't have a choice. Africa is the place to be.
Wow. Doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.